This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Tonight I'm diving into the world of staff development days, those essential opportunities where we come together as educators to share, learn and grow. I'll be reflecting on my CPD sessions where I have collaborated with colleagues, explored new assessment strategies and gained valuable insights into teaching practices. So stay with me as we explore the power of collaboration and learning that happens when we come together as a team.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson. Tonight we'll be diving into a topic that is always close to my heart, CPD, but in particular staff development days. Today I've had a pleasure of taking a look and reflecting on CPD sessions in the last couple of years, and I just thought it'd be a great time to share some of my reflections with you. Now, I'll be talking about what I contribute towards the staff development days, but also what I've learned from my colleagues and some of the valuable insights I've gained from those who attended both my sessions and sessions that I've attended as well. So, what exactly did I contribute, for example, towards staff development days? Well, I've had the honour in the last couple to share the spotlight with two of my much valued colleagues, and together we focused on an area that is crucial, not just as A-level teachers, but things that we can explore with our other colleagues as well across the various curriculums. And in particular, we've looked at retrieval practice. And not just that, but we've also looked at how we can design low-stake assessments to track progress in a way that doesn't overwhelm our students, and of course, ourselves. And I was particularly excited about the session this week on this because I've always been a big believer in making assessment stress-free. And whilst for ourselves we can't control how students feel in the final exam, we can't control the fact that on a particular day at a particular time for 90 minutes or 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes that they have to sit there and in that time conditions produce an essay. We can't stop that from happening, but we can certainly control the manner in which we approach that, and certainly the 2 years that we have before that, we can really make the assessment process really quite not just stress-free but comfortable and really supportive in that regard. So in my session I shared a resource that I created that pinpoints the 3 pillars, I believe, of effective assessment. So the first one I've already highlighted. It was to create a stress-free opportunity or a stress-free assessment opportunity. And we looked at strategies such as regular quizzing to keep the pressure off students, but ensure that learning is still being reinforced. But secondly, I think actionable feedback is important as well. And I emphasised how feedback doesn't always have to be a formal written comment. It can be collaborative writing, where students build on each other's ideas, or even verbal feedback during class activities. And finally, I suggested that we need to use observations to gauge progress as well. And I suggested using quick, low-stakes activities like exit tickets or minute papers to get real-time feedback on how well students are grasping the material. These strategies are really rooted in evidence placed from places such as King's College London and the Teacher Toolkit and the evidence-based education. So I felt that they would add value to the day as well. And I really got a lot out of it, if I'm honest. And I think it always comes back to that old adage that when you're delivering something, you're learning it twice. And I really love doing it. And I would be, on these staff development days, I think it's really important to be able to put myself forward and offer some of the things that I really find valuable to my colleagues. And the it often is the case that not only, like I say, do colleagues get things from me, but I get to learn from them as well. And it's a really insightful day. And again, the session didn't just stop with me. One of my colleagues was a maths teacher, and he introduced us to a fantastic approach using whiteboards. So initially I thought, I've seen this before, whiteboards, because I use whiteboards. I use them probably every single day. And because I use them every single day, I thought, well, there can't be much else I can learn from this. And this is the beauty of Staff Development Day. I learned loads of things from him. Things that I thought, why have I not thought of this before? So he demonstrated how he integrates them into the classroom. So how, in particular, the point of, but we're going to look at how we use it for actionable feedback. And I just realised how effective they really can be. And what I hadn't considered before is how mini whiteboards can serve as a essential tool for actionable feedback as well. So especially when addressing a whole class problem. So what my colleague did in particular, he addressed when this has happened, where he's found that whether it's after an assessment, a piece of homework, or an activity in class, he's just found that the students simply don't get it. So, okay, let's pull out our whiteboards and let's see what we can do about this. And it was incredible what he did. So he used the whiteboard to ask every student to work through the problem simultaneously. And this way you can immediately see where the gaps are and provide that on-the-spot feedback. And it's a great strategy for ensuring that no one falls behind, and for giving quick, tailored guidance. And what's also brilliant about this method is that it's not just a check of whether students got the right answer, it is a chance to engage with their thought process in real time, which is invaluable for maths in particular. And I can definitely see how this kind of approach will be useful in my own lessons, especially when working through tricky concepts such as an application question or addressing a misunderstanding that can be quite common in politics around the difference between the role of Parliament and the role of government. So, the use of whiteboards in this particular session was excellent. And what he did was he was able to tell us how the whiteboards were perfect for creating that stress-free environment for that collaborative writing as part of the actionable feedback. But in addition to that, also just being able to be a tool for really good support. And then not only was my maths colleague available for the staff development day, because we did it as a three, and my other colleague was a history teacher, and she brought a whole different approach to the concept of retrieval practice. And what I particularly found inspiring was how she used the particular part about the stress-free assessment opportunities. And we may talk about particular software devices like WooClap or the Quizlet or other other devices, which for some reason suddenly escaped my mind. But the type, all these different ones. I don't particularly use them because I don't allow my students to use their mobile phones in class. But I also don't always use whiteboards as well. And what my history colleague or our history colleague showed us was that there's another way of doing it as well. And she used something called a retrieval practice pyramid. And I'm telling you now, I'm definitely stealing this one. I loved it. So it's a technique it is perfect for creating a low stakes environment where students can recall information gradually, but without feeling pressurized. And the pyramid structure allows them to first recall foundational information for one point. And it just builds on that so they can move up the levels, so they can engage with more complex ideas as they go. And the more complex ideas might go up to 4 points. And I think the one that's used of the day was what is Butskillism. And for my politics, I know that, but otherwise I would have no idea. And that's the level that we have to eventually aspire to. So it's really effective and really useful, which is brilliant. And it's such a simple yet effective approach, and it really helps reduce the anxiety around assessment. And that was really the message that we were trying to get yesterday, was that we want to create low stakes assessments that is stress free but provides actionable feedback, and is able, in addition to provide them actual feedback, but to observe the and to gauge the process as well. So, although I began talking about staff development days, I thought I'd just focus on what we did yesterday, just so that you were able to see how not only are we looking at a particular concept, but how we learn from that as well. And like I said, I learned from my colleagues. This is without the people who came to the session. This is just my colleagues who helped deliver it with me. I learned a lot from them. So from my math teacher, I shouldn't say that, from math teacher, I learned just simply how we can use the whiteboards to deliver some actionable feedback. And the stress-free opportunities can be used through retrieval practice grids from our history teacher as well, or from my history colleague as well. And like I said, I learned how she applied the retrieval not just as a memorization tool, but as a way to deepen understanding and make them connections between different historical themes. And it really got me thinking how I can use stress-free opportunities in my own practice to help students feel more confident while still pushing them to engage with the material more thoroughly. And I think I did something very similar to that today. And it's interesting. I was at a keynote speech yesterday, and the keynote speaker in particular, and made me laugh because she's absolutely right when she said that the students will tell the next day when you've been on a course, because you'll be trying new things. And I did that today, but it's interesting. It wasn't actually on the back of a CPD session. It was something I had planned anyway, but it really helped that after my CPD session yesterday, that and sitting in with my colleagues who helped me deliver, that it really made me mindful of how stress-free it actually became. So what I did was, we in my A2 politics class today, we have to learn about how the Congress can pass legislation, and it's quite a dry topic. Let's be honest. It's not the one that students are rushing back for anytime soon. So we have to make it a bit more interesting. And what I've done is I created a board game, and the board game it was 18 steps. So I used a 6-sided dice, but obviously 3 of them. And if they rolled a dice, that landed on a particular part. And then they had to explain what the process was and what the challenges were going to be. And they really liked it. And it was, although I was going to do it anyway, the idea of being stress-free, the idea of getting some actionable feedback and really using the observation process to gauge their progress, it was really quite good. And it was really reinforced by just how much the CPD session helped me as well as everybody else as well. So I'm really, really happy with that, really. And it was just one of those sessions where it was really quite good. So what I would like to do is talk a little bit about how I learn from my colleagues as well, because it's okay delivering these sessions, but if you're not getting anything out of it either, as in if you're not getting any feedback from colleagues about maybe how they can do things and maybe what they do to help their progress as well, then it's really a one-sided conversation and a one-way street. And CPD is not about that. CPD is about supporting each other and making sure that we all have a very active and worthwhile professional development.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Parentkind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
Are your teachers juggling multiple technology platforms and struggling to keep everything organised? Then Toddle might be the answer. Built by a team of ex-educators, Toddle offers an all-in-one solution for teachers that streamlines everything, from curriculum planning and assessments to communication and report cards. And the best part? Toddle comes inbuilt with an AI assistant that helps teachers save time and improve their practices. 85% of schools replaced 3 or more platforms when they brought in Toddle. Teachers using Toddle say that the platform helps them save up to 10 hours a week. That means more time for what really matters, supporting students and driving academic success. See how Toddle can support your school. Visit toddleapp.com.
Hey education changemakers, ready for something special? It's Bet Show's 40th anniversary and we're throwing a free celebration just for you. Join us at London Excel from January 22nd to 24th to connect, learn and be inspired. Picture this, 300 plus speakers who truly get it, 600 cutting edge edtech companies and all the fresh ideas you need to make 2025 your best year yet. So why wait? Head to uk.betshow.com, grab your free ticket and come celebrate with your peers. Because this is for you. See you at Bet.
Welcome back to the Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson. So, what did I learn from my colleagues during my CPD session? Well, most valuable thing that I took away was the diversity of approaches in the room. So, for example, I've always known the power of visual tools in teaching, but when my colleague introduced the mini whiteboard strategy, it clicked me in a new way. It's one thing to know a strategy works, but hearing it and seeing it from another teacher, especially one in a subject like maths, and how he uses it so effectively really brought it to life for me. So maths is so often seen as a subject where students either get the answers or they don't. And we had a really good chat about this yesterday, about how it's really quite clear how sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, and there's certain strategies that work and some don't, and clearly mini whiteboards do. But by using them, he's able to turn a class-wide problem into a live, interactive feedback session. And what struck me is that it allows students to participate at their own level, providing instant insights into their thought process, and helps him address misunderstandings before they get deep-rooted. I haven't really fully appreciated how versatile these tools can be across different subjects until I saw it in action. And now I'm thinking about how I can adapt this approach to my own classroom. There's something about seeing a tool used successfully in a new context that really sparks new ideas. And it made me realize that sometimes the best insights come from simply watching a colleague in action. So similarly, my other colleague, my history colleague, brought a fresh viewpoint that helped me see how retrieval practice can play out in a very different context. So history, as we know, requires students to engage with large amounts of content. And so retrieval practice has to be intentional and scaffolded differently than in, say, a science class. But the principles remain the same. It's about breaking down the learning into digestible chunks and using feedback to support that process. The way she uses stress-free opportunities like the retrieval practice pyramid in her history lessons really resonated with me. By layering the material and building up from basics, her students are able to gradually recall and connect information without feeling the weight of a formal exam on her shoulders. It's a very intentional approach to retrieval, and one I hadn't seen applied in that way before. And again, this is where collaboration becomes so powerful. Seeing how other teachers apply concepts like retrieval in ways that are so closely tied to their subjects really helped me think about how I can do the same for my teaching in both law and in politics as well. And so the real takeaway is how we can all just learn from each other as well. In fact, Evidence shows that collaboration among teachers can lead to a better outcome for both educators and students. According to research predominantly by John Hattie, collaborative professional development has a significant impact on improving teaching effectiveness. It's not just about learning new strategies, it's about refining our teaching practices through sharing insights, reflecting on what works, and receiving feedback from our peers. When we collaborate, we gain different perspectives, learn from each other's successes and failures, and are inspired to push our own practices further. It's one thing to read about a strategy, but it's entirely different to see it in practice and have a colleague walk you through their experience by modelling it to you. The collaboration was invaluable not only in providing new techniques, but also in reminding me of the importance of reflecting on my own practice and being able to adapting based on what I see in others. And when we share, we grow and we strengthen each other's teaching. And isn't that the heart of what CPD is all about? But the session didn't end with the formal presentations. Because after the main session, the college offered an incredible opportunity for more informal drop-in discussions. And this was an amazing extension of the learning we had just done. It had become a chance to speak with so many different colleagues from across the college, including those from higher education, further education, and even apprenticeships. I can't emphasize how valuable this was because it wasn't just about the content being shared, but the people we were talking to. Now, the drop-in format allowed for a real, genuine conversations about what worked in teaching and what's been successful, and where there are still challenges. Now, it's one thing to be in a room full of teachers to hear about strategies, but it's another entirely to sit down with colleagues from different sectors and hear about the unique challenges they face. For instance, speaking with a colleague from HE helped me understand how different our approaches can be, even within the same institution. They're often dealing with a different age group, different resources, and different expectations. And that conversation gave me new insights how I might approach certain teaching strategies for my own students and how I can adjust my approach based on where they are in their educational journey. But of course, the conversation went down the route of how they were very similar too, and how FE and HE can very much be guided by each other in many different ways. I also spoke with colleagues from apprenticeships, and that was really eye-opening conversation. Apprenticeships are often seen as a different beast entirely, with their own set of pressures and unique requirements. But through these conversations, I realised that we all share similar goals, whether it's creating engaging learning opportunities, fostering critical thinking, or preparing students for their future careers. The strategies might differ, but the underlying principles are the same. That's what I found so exciting, and we're all on the same page and just coming at things from different angles. And this really is truly the beauty of CPD and Staff Development Day. And what struck me throughout these conversations was just how much learning can happen outside of the formal session. So when you get a chance to speak informally with others, rather than it being a session, people drop in, they have a conversation, they're more likely sometimes to speak to you directly. If you are on your own with them, they might offer more insights than if they were in a group full of people, just in case they feel they're being monitored or they don't want to say things in front of a lot of people. So the informal meetings can work out really well as well. And, you realize just how much we can benefit from this, for want of a better phrase, this cross-pollination. It's like being in a constant state of discovery where every new conversation adds another layer to your understanding of teaching and learning. I had a really good conversation with someone who teaches HR yesterday, and she wasn't sure how the collaborative writing would work in a HR session. And, a quick conversation led down the line of, well, could you not just have one person being the HR assistant and one being the in a role play, one of them being the employee, and just seeing how, how responsive they are to the employee, how, nice they are to them, and just how supportive they are. And the collaborative approach works really well at this point, because the student in particular who will be playing the employee, they're going to know on a human level if they've met their needs and met their support. And we just had a little conversation. It was interesting because I was talking a little bit about the law around HR, and she was telling me a little bit about the work and practices of it. But we were able to, just on a one-to-one level, just have a conversation around, well, what about if they did that, and the conversation went really well, and it was just a really nice, quick 5 minutes, and it was no more than that, just about how that second element that we were delivering on collaborative writing, how that can be approached in a HR setting, and it went really well, and it was really, really nice. And again, these drop-in sessions just allow me to talk to colleagues who are experiencing challenges in their areas, and it may not even be challenges. Sometimes they actually would tell me how they're doing this really well, and I would actually made a note of a few things and said, "Oh, that's good. I'm going to use that." And so I left those conversations with a greater sense of what's happening in the wider educational landscape, not just in the college, but just generally across FE, HE, and just education as a whole. And, most importantly, what these drop-in sessions highlighted for me was the true value of collaboration. So it's not just about sharing resources and strategies, but about coming together and solving problems and supporting each other and encouraging that level of growth. And research tells us that teacher collaboration leads to increased job satisfaction, improved teaching practice, and better student outcomes. And that is the holy trinity for education, isn't it? We want our teachers to be firmly satisfied in their job, and their teaching practice improving as a result of that, and as a direct consequence of that, or an impact of that, your students are better off for it. We want that, don't we? We absolutely want that holy trinity of job satisfaction, improved teaching practice, and better student outcomes. And really good CPD will always do that. And in a world where teaching can sometimes feel isolating, these collaborative opportunities are invaluable. We all teach in our own classrooms with our own students, but we are a part of something much bigger. And when we collaborate, whether it's through formal CPD sessions, informal conversations, or any other type, we strengthen the collective expertise. The drop-in sessions were a perfect example of this, and I've left feeling incredibly grateful for the chance to hear so many different perspectives, share ideas, and learn from colleagues I might not have had the chance to interact with otherwise. Said to one of them, "Oh, we've never met before. I bet we'll see you all the time now." And we had a laugh, and lo and behold, saw them today. It was nice, really nice. So the overall takeaway is staff development days, when done right, offer so much more than just professional learning. They provide us with the opportunity to collaborate, share insights, and learn from each other in ways that truly benefit our teaching practice. The diversity of ideas, strategies, and experiences that we bring to the table makes us better educators and ultimately helps our students thrive. That's the real value of staff development, after all. And it's not just about growing as individuals, but it's about growing together as a community of educators, all working towards the same goal.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Meet USA Study, your one-stop platform for guiding students through their college application journey. Access up-to-date resources on universities, programs, scholarships, and application requirements, all in one place. Get easy-to-access tools, personalised timelines, expert tips, application templates, and exclusive webinars with admissions officers to help your student stand out. Visit usastudy.co.uk or call Phil at 0800 612 8271 because every student deserves the opportunity to shine with USA Study.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
A Schools Week exclusive reveals that a multi-million-pound legal fight has been launched by one of the biggest school management information system providers against a leading rival. 2 years ago, United Learning Trust lost a High Court battle with tech company Bromcom, after a judge ruled Bromcom should have won a £2 million MIS contract with the academy chain. Bromcom has told rival Arbor Education, which secured the deal, to pay £4 million, accusing it of making material misrepresentations over its finances that prevented it from being automatically disqualified during the procurement process. Arbor denied the allegations, saying schools should not have to fear being sued by their software supplier. Ministers handed United Learning £1 million to challenge Bromcom in what Schools Week calls a bid to protect the wider academy sector. In court documents, Bromcom claimed Arbor would have either ceased to trade or not been able to secure 26 subsequent contracts across 543 schools if it did not win the UL contract. Bromcom says it would have secured all or some of these deals, the basis of the claim, and that Arbor's actions unfairly disadvantaged Bromcom and undermined the principles of fair competition. The case comes around what Schools Week calls seismic change to the MIS world. The market share for Sims, long a sector dominator, has shrunk, falling 44% last year. Arbor's share stood at 30% and Bromcom's at 11%. It's not the first legal battle raised by Bromcom, as 11 years ago they took action against two councils, and in September, Lift Schools settled its legal battle with them. That dispute centred on the chain's decision to award a £2 million contract to Arbor. The Guardian features research which identifies poverty and SEND as the key influences on individual children's school exclusions and attainment, rather than race. The findings by a multi-ethnic team of academics from Durham and Birmingham universities challenge some views that children in some ethnic groups are disproportionately affected by exclusions and suspensions. However, the article also features responses from race and equality campaigners who argue that the research downplays the complex intersection of ethnicity and class that deprives many children of fair access to educational opportunities. The research found that once adjusted by free school meal eligibility or SEND status, there were no significant differences between ethnic groups in rates of exclusion or academic attainment at primary or secondary schools in England. The research used official records from the Department for Education for 2019 and was published in the journal Education Sciences. Full details of the Guardian article, as well as reported comment from campaigners, union representatives and the researchers themselves, can be found online. BBC Wales focuses on a story affecting many higher education institutes, with its coverage of plans to cut 400 full-time jobs at Cardiff University. The cost-cutting proposals could also involve course closures and department mergers, with nursing, music and modern languages among subjects facing cuts. The Cardiff University and College Union called the measures cruel and unnecessary and said it would fight compulsory redundancies. The University Vice-Chancellor has defended the decision to cut jobs, saying the drastic action was needed to avoid the university becoming untenable. She said the job role cuts were only a proposal, but insisted that the university needed to make different decisions due to declining international student numbers and increasing costs. A Welsh Government spokesperson said they were very disappointed nursing courses were part of the proposals, but that universities across the UK are facing a challenging financial period. The plans will remain in consultation for 3 months, with final plans for approval expected to be considered in June. Full details can be found on BBC Wales News Online. Finally, the BBC's education reporters cover a report from the Children's Commissioner for England, which says young people who took part in last summer's riot did it in the thrill of the moment. Dame Rachel D'Souza told BBC Radio 5 Live that judges should have the power to wipe criminal records clean where youths had done their time for some very silly things. She said interviews with children charged over the riots painted a more complex picture of why they became involved. Dame Rachel also told BBC Breakfast that children turned up to riots having been egged on by adults who were extremists. Many of the children she said she'd spoken to had ADHD and felt they had acted impulsively and then regretted what they had done. The report said at least 140 children had been arrested and 84 charged, with some as young as 12 being sentenced. Dame Rachel states that her report does not excuse criminality, but that her duty is to listen to children. Full details of Dame Rachel's comments can be found on BBC News websites, and the report can be found on the childrenscommissioner.gov.uk website. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Welcome back to the Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson, and so far we've talked about what I contributed towards, or what me and my colleagues contributed towards the CPD sessions, and also what I've learned from my colleagues as a result. So let's move on and let's look at the feedback that I received from those who attended the CPD session. Now, one of the biggest things I learned was how the vision of effective assessment can vary depending on whether or not you're in higher or further education. And it's easy to think of assessment as a one-size-fits-all concept, but in reality, it's shaped by the context we work in and the students we teach. For those of us in FE, the needs of our students are often different. We have to deal with a wider range of abilities, backgrounds, and learning styles, and it's crucial to keep that in mind when we think about assessment. The attendees raised some really interesting points about how assessment practices look at different levels, so especially in FE and HE as well. So, for example, one of the attendees who teaches in higher education shared their perspective on how assessment in their sector tends to be more focused on summative assessments. In HE, it's often about the big exams at the end of the year of the final research papers. They spoke about how their students, who are usually at a higher level of education, are expected to work towards these major high-stake assessments, often without much ongoing formative feedback. And while this can create a certain kind of academic discipline and rigour, it's clear that the emphasis on summative assessments has a very different impact on the students compared to those in FE. And for us in further education, it's not just about the final grade or the big exam, it's about the journey. It's about supporting ongoing development, making sure that students can demonstrate their learning regularly and in a low pressure way. In FE, we're much more focused on providing formative, low-stake opportunities for students to show that what they've learned, giving them regular feedback on their progress. One of the key points raised during this session was the importance of assessment being a tool for development, not just for grading. The conversation really highlighted the need for flexibility in our assessment practices. For instance, as a teacher in FE, I often have to consider how best to gauge progress in my students over time, taking into account that they may be at a different stage in their learning journey than their colleagues, their peers. This is why strategies like low-stakes quizzing, minute papers, and collaborative writing, things we've discussed today already, are so powerful. They give students multiple opportunities to demonstrate their learning without the pressure of high-stake exams. What was particularly enlightening was hearing about the differences in how assessments are perceived across the two sectors. So in HE, there tends to be much stronger focus on preparing students for the next step in their academic journey, often geared towards independent research and critical analysis, with fewer opportunities for feedback before the final assessment. In contrast, FE tends to place a greater emphasis on student support through the learning process. We're constantly working to ensure that students are developing the skills they need to succeed, and assessment is one of the tools we use to guide that process. It's more about fostering a growth mindset than simply preparing students for their exams. This difference in approach led to some really valuable discussions in the session. For example, one attendee noted that in HE, the grading criteria can sometimes feel like a barrier rather than a guide. The focus on final exams and assessments can create a sense of finality, and students may not always have the chance to fully engage with feedback or improve their work. On the other hand, in FE, the more frequent ongoing assessment allows for a more iterative process. It's not just about one big moment, it's about a gradual process where students can build on their own skills over time. And this approach has its challenges, of course. With a wider range of student abilities in FE, it can sometimes feel like a need to juggle different expectations at once. Some students might need more support to reach the same level of understanding as their peers, while others may be ready to take more advanced work. But what became clear through these discussions is that flexibility is key. We need to be able to adapt our assessment strategies to suit the different levels and the needs of our students. While the goal of assessment may remain the same, to gauge student learning, provide feedback, and guide development, the methods and frequency of assessment should be tailored to fit the context of the students that we're working with. That means that recognizing the different stages students are at in their academic journeys and using assessment as a tool can meet their needs at each stage, which is really, really important. An interesting point that came up was how feedback is incorporated into the assessment process. In HE, feedback is often given after a large assignment or exam, but the time gap between submission and receiving feedback can sometimes leave students feeling disconnected from the process. They moved on to other things by the time they get the feedback, which means they may not always have the chance to apply it to their future work. In FE, however, we have the advantage of being able to give more immediate feedback. We can check in students regularly and provide real-time feedback during our learning process, which can be more effective in guiding their development. And when we had these two little conversations yesterday, these two conversations around this, what was very evident was that HE staff wanted to incorporate more immediate feedback like we do in FE and provide real-time feedback. They wanted to do that more. And the conversation was really, really worthwhile. And the CPD days where we're allowed to collaborate with other areas like FE is fundamental for helping us do this. And as a result of yesterday, we've managed to arrange a follow-up session where we're able to have a little bit of a chat with HE staff just around how we do it in FE and how they may be able to do it more. Nothing for informal, of course, and I say follow-up session, I just mean a follow-up catch-up. And often these things are better done sometimes over a coffee rather than sometimes doing it as a formal session, just verbalizing conversations between the two and just about how this can happen as well. And it's really good to do that. And one of the things I really appreciate about these discussions was the reminder of just how vital feedback is in HE, FE, apprenticeships, all types of curriculum. It's not just about telling students what they did right or wrong, but it's about helping them understand where they can improve and giving them the tools to do so. And again, conversations yesterday allowed us to have regular conversation, have a regular dialogue around how we did it in different areas. And I took a lot of feedback from my HR colleagues, but not just my HR colleagues as well, but other colleagues as well. We had a colleague from the CMI management, which is again HE, and we had a really good conversation around what they do and what we do as well. And conversations are so underrated in these sort of environments. And we do it, like say, whether it's through small quizzes, collaborative activities, or one-on-one feedback, that the goal's the same: to support the students in developing them understanding and them skills. But this conversation wasn't just about theory. It also highlighted just how much the sector-specific challenges impact the way we approach assessment. For example, in apprenticeship programs, assessments are often more practical, geared towards the real-world application of skills. Apprentices need to be able to demonstrate their competency on the job, which means assessment has to be more aligned with the workplace. That's a completely different set of challenges from those we face in FE or HE, but the principle of effective assessment still applies. Whether students are working towards an exam, a piece of coursework, or a practical task, the goal is always to help them improve and demonstrate their learning in a meaningful way, which is, again, absolutely perfect. Now, what was also interesting was hearing how some colleagues in HE felt about the relationship between assessment and student engagement. And in their experience, students sometimes see assessments as an obstacle, something to be endured in order to reach the end of their degree. But this can make assessment feel like a burden rather than a tool for learning. But in FE, the constant use of formative assessments can help students stay engaged and motivated. And that was, again, a conversation we had yesterday around whether or not we can do more formative assessment in HE, we can do more formative assessment in apprenticeships. And of course, we can. Formative assessment is one of the first things that I learned in my in my PGCE, was that assessment is absolutely everything, and it's everything, it's everywhere, it's in every single type of activity that you do. So of course we are able to do that, but it's maybe less of a concept in HE. Maybe if any HE colleagues are listening and they disagree, I'm happy to have a conversation around that, because it's just from what I got from my experience yesterday in the staff development. But like I said, it can be a constant tool that we can all learn from. But at the end of the day, the feedback I received from the CPD attendees really reinforced the idea that assessment is not a one-size-fits-all process. There's no single method or tool that works for every student or every subject. And I came away with 3 or 4 absolutely excellent ideas that I'm going to use, one of which was from my very own colleague who we will do the session with, like I said earlier on, the pyramid. Now, there's no single method that can work for every student or every member of staff, but the key is flexibility, adaptability, and recognizing that assessment is a tool for growth and development, not just a grading system. Whether we're in FE, HE, apprenticeships, the core principles of good assessment remain the same. We're here to support the student learning, provide actionable feedback, and help students to improve. And it's a reminder that the best assessments are those that are tailored to the needs of the students and the context in which they're learning. So the conversation around assessment made me reflect on my own practice and how I can continue to adapt my approach to suit the needs of my students. There's always room for improvement, as we know, and by continuing to collaborate with colleagues across different sectors, I know I'll be able to refine my own strategies and make my teaching even more effective. And that's the real benefit of sessions like these. They don't just offer new strategies or insights, they push us to think about what we're doing and how we can make it better. The more we collaborate, the more we all improve as educators, and the more our students benefit from the collective knowledge and experience that we bring to the table.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Meet USA Study, your one-stop platform for guiding students through their college application journey. Access up-to-date resources on universities, programs, scholarships, and application requirements, all in one place. Get easy-to-access tools, personalised timelines, expert tips, application templates, and exclusive webinars with admissions officers to help your student stand out. Visit usastudy.co.uk or call Phil at 0800 612 8271 because every student deserves the opportunity to shine with USA Study.
So as I wrap up tonight's show, I just wanted to reflect on the overall advantage of staff development days for me, and just really want to impress just how much they support me as a teacher, but just as an individual as well, and general educator in the world of education, where we are just wanting all to develop our students to be their best version of themselves. And for me, it's about the opportunities for collaboration and growth. We don't always get the time in our busy schedules to sit down with our colleagues and really reflect on our practice. But days like yesterday to me were a chance to do that. And what's great about CPD sessions is that they're not only time for professional development, but they build a stronger sense of community with our schools and colleges. Sharing our knowledge, learning from each other, and getting feedback all help us become better teachers. So whether it's a session about assessment, teaching strategies, or even just sharing ideas, there's always something to take away. So as I look ahead, I'm excited to keep applying what I've learned today and continue growing alongside my amazing colleagues. Staff development days are a key part of what makes us better in what we do, and I hope you find a similar value in your own CPD experiences. So thank you very much for listening tonight. And it's been a pleasure sharing this with you, and will be a pleasure sharing future shows with you as well on the Thursday Late Night Show with me, Chris Wilkinson. Until next time, see you soon.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.